The hospital never truly slept. Even at night, when the corridors dimmed and the voices softened, there was always movement, wheels rolling, machines breathing, distant footsteps echoing like memories that refused to fade. For most people, this building was a place they passed through unwillingly, a place they hoped to forget. But for Daniel Halle, it had become a second home, one he never expected and never asked for. Daniel worked in the hospital as a maintenance supervisor. His job was invisible to most. He fixed broken lights, leaking pipes, malfunctioning doors. He replaced things before anyone noticed they were broken. The doctors were known by name, the nurses by faces, but Daniel was known only by the sound of his toolbox and the quiet way he moved through hallways. He preferred it that way. Years earlier, Daniel had wanted more from life. He had dreams of starting his own business, traveling, building something meaningful. But life, as it often does, had shifted its weight suddenly and without warning. His wife had fallen ill. Not dramatically at first, just small symptoms, easy to ignore. By the time the truth arrived, it arrived fully formed and unstoppable. She spent her last months in this very hospital, in a room at the end of the oncology wing. After she died, Daniel didn't leave the hospital. Instead, he applied for a job there. People thought it was strange, even unhealthy, but Daniel didn't explain himself. The building felt familiar. Pain lived there, yes, but so did effort, care, and quiet acts of kindness that rarely made noise. Every morning, Daniel arrived early. He drank his coffee standing, never sitting. He checked his task list and started working before the building fully woke up. He avoided conversations unless necessary, and when he spoke, his words were brief and practical. One night, close to midnight, Daniel was called to fix a light in the older wing of the hospital. This wing was quieter than the rest, housing long-term patients and those nearing the end of their treatments. As he pushed his cart down the hallway, he noticed the door slightly open. Inside was a small room with only one bed and one chair. A woman sat in the chair. She was elderly, her posture straight despite her age. Her hands rested calmly in her lap. She wasn't reading or watching anything. She was simply sitting, eyes open, staring at nothing in particular. The bed behind her was empty. Daniel hesitated. He was used to seeing families wait, cry, sleep in chairs, but something about this stillness felt different. As he passed, the woman looked up. "Are you here to fix something?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel replied automatically. "Light in the hallway," she nodded, then after a moment said, "It's always the small things that stop working first." Daniel paused. He didn't know why, but he felt she was not talking about the light. He fixed the problem quickly, but when he returned, the woman was still there, still awake. As he passed again, she spoke. "My son was in that bed," she said gently. "He passed this morning." Daniel stopped. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it more than his voice revealed. She smiled, not happily, but peacefully. "Thank you. Everyone says that it helps more than they think." Daniel didn't know what to say next. Silence filled the space between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. "Why are you still here?" Daniel asked, surprising himself. She considered the question. "Because I wasn't ready to leave him alone yet," Daniel nodded. He understood that feeling deeply. From that night on, Daniel noticed things he had stopped noticing before. The way nurses spoke softly even when they were exhausted. The way doctors paused before delivering difficult news. The way some patients stared out windows, not at the view, but at their own thoughts. Weeks passed. One afternoon, Daniel was repairing a broken handrail when he heard raised voices. A young man stood in the hallway, arguing with a nurse. His frustration was loud, uncontrolled. "You don't understand," the man said. "This is my father." "You're just doing a job." The nurse remained calm. "And my job is to help him." "Please lower your voice." Daniel watched quietly. When the man noticed him, he turned his anger in Daniel's direction. "What are you staring at?" he snapped. Daniel met his eyes. "Nothing," he said. "Just listening." The man fell silent. Later that evening, Daniel saw the same man sitting alone, head in his hands. Without thinking too much, Daniel sat beside him. "They try their best," Daniel said softly. "Even when it doesn't look like it." The man sighed. I know. I'm just scared. Daniel nodded. That makes sense. They sat in silence. That night, Daniel realized something uncomfortable. He had been hiding in this building, using routine to avoid feeling. Fixing broken things was easier than facing the ones that couldn't be repaired. Days turned into months. One morning, a new patient arrived in the long-term wing. She was young, far too young for the room she was placed in. Her laughter echoed down the hallway, surprising everyone. She joked with nurses, thanked them constantly, even apologized when she asked for help. Daniel found himself fixing things in her room more often than necessary. You're always here, she teased one day. Things break, Daniel replied. People do too, she said, smiling. But we don't replace them as easily. Her name was Emma. Emma talked openly about her condition, not with fear, but honesty. She didn't pretend to be brave, and she didn't dramatize her pain. She simply lived inside the reality she had been given. One evening, Daniel found her crying quietly. I'm not afraid of dying, she said. I'm afraid of not having lived properly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Living properly, he said slowly, isn't about how long you live. It's about whether you notice the time you have. Emma smiled through her tears. Then you must be very good at living. Daniel looked away. Weeks later, Emma passed away. Daniel attended her memorial service quietly, standing at the back. As he listened to people speak about her kindness, her humor, her strength, he felt something shift inside him. That night, Daniel went to the quiet room, the one at the end of the hall, where no machines beeped and no announcements reached. He sat alone for the first time in years and allowed himself to grieve not just for his wife, not just for Emma, but for the version of himself he had abandoned. Life, he realized, was not something to endure quietly. It was something to participate in, even when it hurt. The next morning, Daniel did something small but brave. He spoke more. He smiled more. He asked people how they were and listened to the answers. The hospital didn't change. People still arrived scared and left changed. Some healed, some didn't. But Daniel changed. He no longer fixed things just to keep them working. He fixed them because he understood what it meant when something stopped working unexpectedly. Years later, when Daniel finally retired, the hospital held a small gathering for him. Nurses hugged him. Doctors thanked him. Patients remembered him. And when Daniel walked out of the building for the last time, he didn't feel like he was leaving a place of pain. He felt like he was leaving a place that taught him the most important lesson of all. Life is not measured by how much you survive, but by how deeply you allow yourself to feel, connect, and show up, especially when it's difficult.